Our focus today is to look at dividing two-digit divisors. So you would be able to use strategies to divide two-digit divisors. But before we get started with our first strategy, let us take a look at the vocabulary involved. Here's my division symbol, and sits right outside my division symbol is that 13. We call that 13 the divisor. Sitting inside of my division symbol is 286. We call that the dividend. Sitting right on top of my division symbol is our quotient. Quotient is just a fancy word for answer. Now let's look at the steps that we would need for dividing. Step 1. We're going to start with a base number. Our base number can be 10, 20, 30. Step 2. We're going to multiply the base number with our divisor. Step 3, we're going to subtract the dividends. Step 4, we're going to repeat steps 2 and 3 until the base is too large for the dividend. Step 5, we're going to reduce the place value and continue until the dividend has a 0 or a remainder that is less than your divisor. Step 6, we're going to add the partial quotients. And our final step, we're going to write an equation. These are very important steps that we need to know. Let's look at our problem. 286 divide 13. So the first step says we're going to start with a base. And we're going to start with base 10. Remember, we want to start small. So let's think of baby steps. So we're going to multiply the base of 10 by our divisor. So we're going to multiply 13 times 10. This is step 2. So 13 times 10 would give us 130. Remember, we said we can ignore the 0 and multiply 13 times 1, and then we're going to place the 0 back. So 13 times 1 is 13, and then we're going to add that 0, which will give us 130. Step 3, we are going to subtract. 286 subtract 130. That will give us 156. Now we're going to repeat steps 2 and 3 until our base is too large for our dividend. So we're going to continue with our base 10 because we have 156. If I multiply 13 times 10, that is still going to give me the same number, 130. So we're going to keep subtracting. So 130 subtract. So 156 minus 130, that will leave us with 26. Okay, so let's stop for a minute and think about the number 26. We've been using the base 10. Now, if we continue to use the base 10, what do you think is going to happen? That's right, our number is going to be too large. So we are going to, I'm going to just take my 26 up so I can have enough room so I can work the problem out. So we are going to multiply by the value of 1 because our base 10 is too large. So if I do 13 times 1, that will leave me with 13. Remember, our value can be any number, but we just don't want our number to be larger than our dividend. As I mentioned, we're going to take baby steps. So 13, we're going to subtract 26 minus 13, and that's going to leave us with 13. So we have 13 again, and we're going to multiply by the value of 1 again. 13 times 1 will leave me with 13. Let's put our value for 1 up there. Let's subtract 13, take 13 away, will leave us with 0. Remember, step 5 says if we reduce the place value and continue until the dividend has a 0 or the remainder is less than your divisor. So now we can stop because we have reached a 0. Now we are not done. We still have to solve to find our quotient. So we're going to solve by adding the partial quotients. So partial quotients are 10 plus 10 plus 1 plus 1, and that will give us our total number 22. And what is 22 again? If you say quotient, you're correct. So 286 divided 13 is equal to 22. Our final step wants us to write an equation. So let's go ahead and write our equation out. 286 divided 13 is equal to 22. Hope this makes sense. Remember, pause the video, rewind, rewatch as many times as you like.